The planning process is probably the most important process of any project. I know that if I perform this process well, the rest of the project should go smooth. As a project manager, I perform several key tasks in the planning process. The project charter specifies the details of my assignment. Though iterative in nature, I perform two key tasks, which are collecting the requirements and then defining the project scope. These two tasks provide me the inputs to create the project schedule. But that is not all. I also perform a few other key activities. I take into account quality requirements. I conduct risk assessments with the team and add the risk response plans to the schedule and the list of work packages. If applicable, I develop agreements with partners and suppliers involved in the project. I also identify the stakeholders, manage changes, and make a communication plan. As a project manager, I integrate the consequences of these four activities in the schedule, work packages, and budget, which results in the first version of the project management plan. If I find that the project end date and the estimated budget are not aligned with the project charter, I optimize as needed. I then discuss the adaptations with and get agreement from the sponsor, stakeholders, partners, and suppliers, not only with respect to timing and budget, but also with respect to the project's scope. By completing all these steps, I finalize the project management plan. I incorporate both the project charter and lessons learned, which are inputs for this process.
So, with the project management plan, I can now start executing the project.
Yes, Mark. But before the execution process begins, you need to ensure you've completed certain key activities at the end of the planning process. Let me explain. At the end of the planning process, it is your responsibility to see that the project goals are defined and are measurable. You've to get the sponsors and other stakeholders' agreement to the schedule, budget, and deliverables. You also need to ensure that you've identified the risks and have planned appropriate risk response activities. At the end of the process, you must ensure that the schedule, budget, and deliverables are realistic and acceptable for the sponsor. Get your partners and suppliers to agree with the contract terms with respect to schedule, budget, and deliverables. And ensure that the project team is engaged and fully committed to the end result of the project.
That was great, Steve. I'll now be able to complete all the key activities within the planning process. I'll collect all information and define the project scope. I'll consider quality aspects and perform risk assessment.
Yes, and don't forget to get agreement from your stakeholders, suppliers, and partners, manage changes, and develop a communication plan. And ensure that your project management plan details all the critical information. Let's now shift our focus to the project management plan